Welcome to Tomahawk Part 2. At this stage in the process, you can see we're grinding the front of the Tomahawk. So if you remember, this is that railroad spike that's a mild steel. So we're making a slot so we can insert the high carbon steel. So we just got to try and make down the whole front of what's going to be the sharp part of the Tomahawk. We're going to grind that slot and then we'll fit that high carbon steel. So we completed that slot. Now we have to fit the high carbon steel. So this is the same kind of steel we use for the scout knife. So in this case, I just have to file down or grind down the back end of it so that it fits into that slot we made on the Tomahawk. You'll see that we keep checking the fit with the Tomahawk piece just to make sure that that high carbon steel is as good and close a fit as we can get. Now we have the two pieces shaped. We need to make sure that both the high carbon steel and the railroad spike are clean from where those two pieces of steel are going to be put together. So right now we're just cleaning up that slot that we made in the railroad spike. Railroad spike goes back into the forge, so then we do another heat up, and now we just want to gently get the best shape we can or the best slot we can for that insertion of the high carbon steel. using the vise, you can see we've got the railroad spike in the vise, and now we start adding in that and tapping in that high carbon steel. And then you also see that I'm adding some powder there. This is a powdered flux, and this will just help get the weld that we need. And then once we've done that, we put it back into the forge, and now this is the whole forge welding process. So now we heat up the metal, or the two steels, and then once they've got to the right forging temperature, we then start gently hammering them together, adding more flux, and just really trying to make those two pieces of steel one piece of steel. So at this point in the process, we're pleased with the forge weld that we've done, and now we just want to make sure that the rest of the rough shape for that tomahawk is where it needs to be, and then we also go through that eyelet again and make sure that that's the right shape. Forging and hammering process is now finished, so we've got that rough shape that you see right in front of you, which is very rough. So now we move over to the next phase, which is using the angle grinder to continue still in that rough shaping phase, but we're just able to use a pretty high grit on the angle grinder and really get the shape that we're looking for. And in this case, using the point of view camera, you get to see it as I see it. With angle grinding complete, now we move over to the belt grinder, and now we're not only shaping the top and bottom of the tomahawk, but we're also shaping the sides of it. So again, still in that rough grinding shape, we've not done any heat treat or anything, but now we can really start working that shape in using the belt grinder. Now we transition over to the hand sanding. So you can see the wooden block there. Figured out a way to clamp the tomahawk in there as best we could. And then we just go through various grits and just really try to get a nice smooth finish as we can on the tomahawk. Here we decided to add some decoration to the tomahawk, so I'm experimenting with some files and just trying to make kind of 3 indentations top and bottom, just to add a little bit of decoration to the tomahawk. this point in the process, you can see we've got a pretty well made and shaped Tomahawk now. So give you a quick look at that if you can see it here. I'm not sure about the slot for the handle. I might redo it as we heat it up just to make sure we get a good solid fit. Maybe it's a bit bent right now, but that's okay. It's going to be pretty rough looking shape anyway when we finish, so that's fine. But you can see definitely got a pretty cool Tomahawk shape. And again, this was based on that railroad spike, so I kept the railroad spike at the back here so you can tell what it is. So what we'll do next is we'll get the forge fired up, we'll get the oil in the bucket. We'll just double check the shape. If you look, you probably can't see it on the camera here, but there's a little bit of a bend that we'll take care of when it's warmed up, and then we'll quench it, and then from there we'll work on the handle. Pretty good. Put it in the vise right now. We'll take out in a minute. We'll do the hardness test. You can give it a couple of minutes just to kind of let the metal cool down a little bit. Then we'll do the file test. So what we do is we drag a file along the edge, and if it skates on it, we know that we've got a hardened end. All right. So I'm going to go get the file. So that concludes today's episode. So just as a quick recap, we started off with a railroad spike, blunted down the end, added some high carbon steel, put a hole in the back as we went through that. We made a couple of mistakes. This ended up being lessons learned Tomahawk, if you remember. So the lessons learned were I flattened out the front and made it too wide, which made it too thin, which made it impossible for me to really get a cut down the middle, so we could slot that high carbon steel in. And then as I was working on the handle part, I just really mashed it up pretty badly, and you can see that there's lots of cracks and too many things in there. So we've made this lessons learned. We kept on using it as best we could just to kind of learn some skills, and then from there we went to today's final quenched Tomahawk. So you can see this looks a lot more like a Tomahawk now versus lessons learned one. So I'm pretty pleased. We've got the eye hole there that'll be for the handle. We got the high carbon steel, so you can just see, if you look closely, kind of width of my finger there, that you can see there's like a different color there, and that's that high carbon steel. So it welded together pretty well. So that was our first time of doing the forge welding. So I'm pleased with what happened there, and then I just practiced a little bit of filing on that just to get ready for filing skills later on if we ever need them. So that's where we are with this. So the next phase, in the next episode, we will start tidying this up. We'll sharpen it off. We're not going to sharpen it too much because it's a Tomahawk, so we're going to, you know, it's not meant to be slicing tomatoes or anything like that. So what we'll need to do next is we'll take our wood and then we'll start shaping this wood so that we can get it to fit the overall Tomahawk. I'm not really sure what kind of wood this is, but it'll do for what we're doing, and I'll probably leave it about that height as well. So as always, like and subscribe. Any comments and feedback, certainly from more experienced blacksmiths, would definitely be appreciated. This is project number 30 for us, so we're still learning every day. But thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time.